Hi, I'm Scott, and in today's video we're going to go over the basics of operating your pool equipment. The first thing we're going to go over is pool pump operation. Here in our video we're going to be joined by our technician Jake. As you can see, on the back of your pump is going to be the main control panel. On this panel you will find a button labeled Start Stop. You're going to press that to start and stop the pump. When you first start the pump, it will display PRI followed by an RPM reading. This just indicates that the pool pump is in priming mode, which will normally last a few minutes. During this mode, the pump will run at high speed. Above the Start Stop button, you will notice a row of 4 buttons labeled 1, 2, 3, and Quick Clean. Button number 1 will run the pump at high speed. Button number 2 will run the pump at low speed. Button number 3 will run the pump at medium speed based on the factory default settings. Quick Clean can be used if you need to vacuum the pool. Each of these modes is customizable if you turn the pump off using the Start Stop button and then press the button that corresponds to the particular mode that you would like to configure. When you first press the button, the RPM will be displayed, which you can adjust up or down via the plus or minus buttons located to the right of the Start Stop button. If you press that same button one more time, the screen will then switch to display the start time of that particular routine, which you can adjust earlier or later with the up-down buttons, again to the right of the Start-Stop button. If you press it one more time, this will bring up the duration in hours, which you can adjust using the plus or minus buttons as well. We do recommend leaving everything in factory settings unless you need to set up the pump to run for 24 hours in the winter to prevent freezing. The next thing we'll go over is emptying the pump basket. To access the pump basket, you just need to remove the lid located on the front of the pump and set it aside. You'll need to then remove the basket from inside the pump and then empty it out. And you'll notice on the front of the basket there is an opening. This is so that debris can flow in, so you'll want to make sure that this is facing forward towards the front of the pump so debris doesn't get blocked. Next, simply replace the lid, make sure the gasket's seated, and tighten. Up next, we'll go over cleaning the filter cartridge. The first thing you'll want to do is open the air relief valve located on the top of the filter. Next, we will undo the ring in the center. There are just 2 tabs that you want to press in. So you press those, you can twist and undo. And now the top and bottom portion of the filter housing will come apart. We're going to remove the top, set it aside. This will expose the actual cartridge element. We can go ahead and remove that. Next, you'll want to grab a hose. Obviously, we don't do it here, but for the demonstration, but in practical application, you will want to clean this off. You're going to want to go from top to bottom so that the debris washes downwards. Next, we're going to remove the inner tube and set it aside. We'll want to hose this off as well. Next, we will undo the drain plug at the bottom. So once you undo this, it can take a few turns. Sometimes it can be on there pretty tight as well. You'll see water flowing out. This is totally normal. Once that's removed and the water has drained out, we'll also want to clean out the inside of the filter, as oftentimes there's debris stuck inside there as well. Once we have all that done, we can begin reassembly. So we'll put the inner tube back in first. The inner tube does have arrows that need to be lined up, so you'll see in the video it doesn't quite go into place, but once you line up the arrows that are on the tube with the arrows that are on the filter housing, it'll slot right in. Next, we'll reinstall the drain plug. Just make sure that's nice and tight so that there are no leaks. And once that's on, we can go ahead and reinstall the actual filter cartridge after it's been cleaned. When you're putting it back together, for the last pieces, you want to make sure there's no debris on that top lip of the filter housing, and then there's no debris on the actual O-ring. If there is, you might just have a small leak, so you just want to make sure when you're putting it back together that those are completely clean. So we'll place the top portion back onto the bottom, and then we'll grab the ring and reinstall it. It's important to note that you do not want to fight this a lot, so you don't want to use a lot of force. There shouldn't be a lot of resistance. If there is, simply remove it and try to re-thread it. You'll know that it's on properly once you hear a click, and then once that's going, you can go ahead and start the pool pump. We are still going to leave the air relief valve open. The reason for this is that so that as water starts to flow in, the air can be pushed out. As the pump catches prime, it is normal to hear a hissing sound, so we'll see in this video that as it goes, you won't be able to hear it, but when you're doing it yourself in your backyard, you will be able to hear something And then you'll take a look here in the pump basket here in a second, and you will see that water is starting to flow in. This means that the pump is catching prime. And it's normal for this to take a second, so just be patient. Then you'll see the pump basket start to filling up with water. And this is when you'll really start to hear the airflow flowing out of that air relief valve. And we're going to keep it open until we see water shooting out. So it may look a little bit scary, but it's okay. And you can see here the water comes out, and then we shut it, and then you're all done. Up next, we'll go over the operation of the iChlor salt cell. So when you walk over to your salt cell, what you're going to be looking for is all solid green lights. You'll see the first light starting from the top is going to be for the salt level. If it's flashing green, that means the salt is too high and needs to be diluted. Solid green means the salt is ideal and the cell is happy. Flashing red means you have low salt, but the cell is still working. You just need to add more. Solid red means the salt is very low and that the cell is currently unable to operate. Under the salt indicator light, you will see the cell light. This will only come on if the cell is actively working. So by default, the cells are not set to run 24/7. So it's perfectly normal if you come out and see that it's off. You can adjust how long the cell is running for using the less or more buttons located on the right-hand side. You'll need to find the right level to run this based off testing your water. This may change throughout the year. In the summer, you may need to run your cell for longer. In the winter, you may be able to dial it back. You'll also see on the display, it's kind of got a spinning animation. That just means that the cell is working properly. On the flow light, this will normally be green, but if you come out and for whatever reason it's red, there's a few common causes. The first is that the pump is off. The second is that the pump basket is full. The pump also may have lost its prime. Skimmer baskets could be full, or the filter is dirty, and then we show you how to clean that off. So if you run through all of those and it's still giving you that red flow light, then you probably need a service call, and you can just call into our office and schedule an appointment for that. Now, if you come out and the add salt light is blinking red and you want to know how much salt to add, it's very easy. So what we're going to do is go into diagnostic mode. So we're going to press and hold that more button for a few seconds until the lights on the left-hand side flash in sequence. That's how you know you're in diagnostic mode. The first thing that displays displayed in diagnostic mode is going to be the hours that the cell has ran. If you press more, it will go to the next one, which is water temperature. If you hit more again, it will go to the salt level. So this is where we want to see the actual level of salt. And it's important to note that after 5 seconds, diagnostic mode exits. So just make sure you press quickly. But once we get back into diagnostic mode and get to the screen where it shows the salt level, you'll be able to see what your salt level actually is, and you can use the chart located in the back of your owner's manual to add the proper amount of salt. Ideally, you want to keep the salt between 3,000 to 4,000. 3,600 is kind of the sweet spot for that. And that covers it for the operation of your iChlor salt cell.